So hi, welcome to the third part of the Standout series, Identifying Your Priorities in the Job Search. My name is Mai Zhang, and I am a career coach in the Undergraduate Business Career Center at Carlson School of Management. In today's session, will be recorded and will be available on our SOS webinar series on YouTube. You can also go back and watch yesterday and Monday's session on finding a more strategic approach to a job search and strategizing your resume and cover letter. So before we begin, I would like to share a little bit about myself and my job search story. So last May, I graduated from St. Cloud State with my master's, and this was during the beginning of the pandemic. So this was a time when there was a lot of hiring freezes, not a lot of places were hiring, and everyone was uncertain about the hiring process. So like many of you that are going through this job search process during a pandemic right now, I know that it's quite stressful, especially with uncertainty of what the job market will look like. And right before I graduated and before everything was moved to online, I had applied to a few jobs, but because of all the hiring freezes and all the positions that I applied for, there was a pause. And quite honestly, I did not hear back from many of the jobs that I applied for, which was very discouraging, a feeling that perhaps many of you are also going through. And since there was a lot of hiring freezes during that time, I was very discouraged, and there was so much going on in my life with being a mother and having to babysit my niece and nephew while also job searching, that I decided to not apply to any jobs unless there was something that was really interesting to me. And since I interned in CHD's Career Center at the U, I wanted to make sure that when I was applying for jobs that they had some component of career and advising. And I wanted to make sure that I was not spending time and energy applying to a bunch of jobs that I did not really care for or that I would probably not hear from. Then when August rolled around, there was an opening for a career coach in Carlson, which I applied for. And I put a lot of time and energy in applying for this job. And I went through the whole interview process and made it to the final round, but unfortunately was rejected from this job, which was a total bummer. I felt even more defeated after getting this rejection, but decided that I was not going to be sad about my situation because I graduated with my master's and didn't get a job. So I decided that I'm not going to just dwell on this. So after I was rejected, I continued to work at my part-time job, and I also started a jewelry business with my sisters. And I decided that I wanted to make sure I kept myself busy and that I was going to still use my counseling skills in a different capacity. And that was to deal with customers. And from this, I challenged myself to learn how to market products on social media and how to cater to customer needs using my counseling skills. And I did this for a few months until there was another opening in Carlson, which I was very hesitant to apply for, given that I had already been rejected once, and I didn't want to spend all that time and energy and apply and get another rejection. But ultimately, I did decide to apply because I got a lot of encouragements from the people around me. And it seemed like, I guess, it went well because I'm here today. So yeah, that was a little bit about my job search story during the pandemic. So for our agenda today, we will be learning more about exploring your values and decision-making, building confidence in your ability to evaluate whether you should apply for a job or not, identify your non-negotiables and areas of flexibility when evaluating a job, and learning more about short-term employment opportunities and discussing how to evaluate a job offer. So let's begin with talking about values. So whether you are beginning or re-energizing yourself in the job search process, it's important to identify your values, specifically your core values. Your core values are values that you prioritize and are what is most important to you in your life and your career. Some of these values may include the following list. So I have like a list of different values here. Just know that these values are just not exclusive to this. There are more values that I did not list here that you might feel like it's more of a value for you. And it's also important to note that values are different from person to person. And to some levels, our values are also impacted by our internal and external factors. So in addition to identifying your values, it's important to also identify your non-negotiables and areas of flexibility when evaluating jobs. What this means is to assess what are most important to you, whether that is for your current situation or what you want to do to move towards your goals. Similar to core values, non-negotiable items are things that are very important to you, that are the deal breakers in whether or not you apply for a job. And it's also important to think about the areas of flexibility for you. Areas of flexibility are the areas that are that you are open for changes or not deal breakers for you. Some things to consider when evaluating jobs are to think about the compensation, the lifestyle, and the career opportunities or flexibility for yourself. What this will look like is for you to think about which of those things are most important to you. You may not have this information about positions or jobs that you're interested in applying for ahead of time, but it's still important to think about it ahead of time so that once you decide to apply, that this information will help you in your decision-making process. So now that we've already talked about our values, our non-negotiables, areas of flexibility, we're going to start thinking about the process of actually applying for jobs and how we can begin to build our confidence to evaluate if we should apply for a job or not. But before we begin talking about building confidence, I want to talk about assessing your well-being, and that's something that is important in this process. Something you can ask yourself is, are you ready to go through with the job process? Are there internal or external factors impacting your ability to apply? Are your basic needs met right now that will allow you to move forward with looking for a job? And this is an important part of priorities. This is an important part of prioritizing the job search because sometimes our circumstances or even our motivation may prevent us from fully engaging in the job search for our dream job. And it's okay to take it slow and to go at our own pace and accordingly to whatever circumstances that we're in right now. When you are ready though to begin the job search process, one thing you can do is to take a step back and reflect on how you are currently assessing which jobs you are applying for. What is working for you and what is not working for you? Are you applying for all the jobs that you come across that sound interesting to you and that you fit the requirements for? Or are you applying for jobs that you're really interested in only? Or are you looking specifically at companies that you are most interested in and applying to only those jobs? Regardless, if you are applying to like 100 jobs or only 10 jobs, I want you to think about what aspects or what responsibility or the themes that you've noticed in the jobs that you are applying for. What is prompting you to click the apply button? Did you apply to all the marketing jobs that you did because there was a component or emphasis on developing social media presence in marketing strategies that really intrigued or was fitting for your interest and skills? And what's important about doing this reflection is that it will help narrow down your options and help you gain a better understanding of the things that are most interesting to you. This technique will also help eliminate additional stress caused by too much job options and help you focus on being intentional and really creating tailored application materials for each job. And that's important too, is when you're applying for jobs, make sure that the jobs that you're applying for, the materials you're submitting for those jobs are really tailored for that job in order to stand out to the employer that you have spent some time tailoring those materials for that particular job and just not using a general like template across all jobs that you're applying for. It's very exhausting when you just do that. You could apply to more, but it doesn't really, it's not tailored to the position, and employers can see that. And once you're able to tailor job application materials to the jobs that you're applying for, you'll begin to feel more confident and excited about the job. And most likely those jobs that you're applying for are the jobs that you have put some thought into it, and that there's a reason why you're applying for it, which should be making you feel more excited about it. And at the end of the day, it will also help you save energy as well too. So decision-making is a process, and there are a lot of different factors that may influence your decision. What's important to one person is different than what's important to another person, and everyone makes decisions differently. So how you make decision will be different from how your peers or your friends or your brothers and sisters make their decisions. And it could be helpful to identify your style or the process in which you make decisions. An important aspect of making good decisions to have the right information and having information that is important to you, and to follow your process of decision making. So there are some also factors that impact your decision making, and those can include social and personal factors. So in terms of personal factors, it could be like your confidence, your belief, your resilience, and the barriers that you may face or you perceive that you'll face. And the social could be the cultural and environmental background that you come from or that you're currently in, your family or your peers, the political, economic climate. I know right now is a really difficult time and you might not feel ready to make decisions. And chance, and this is some things that sometimes things happen for a reason and we don't anticipate it to. So all these factors, in addition to all the things that we've previously talked about, from our values to our non-negotiables and to our confidence in assessing jobs, will ultimately help us with this process of decision-making. So when you think of decision-making, if it's something that is really hard for you to picture or to really process through, think about the simple things that you've had to make decisions for in your life, such as, buying shoes or what you're planning to order to eat for tonight. Think about like, what do you prioritize in that process? Is there a preference that you typically go with? Is there like a style, of shoes that you prefer, or is there a type of food that you prefer? And even though making decisions on like shoes and food is a simple everyday thing that we've had to make decisions on, this same concept and your ability to decide can be applied to making decisions regarding the job search process. So depending on your circumstances, short-term employment opportunities may be an option for you. So before I got hired for this job, like I mentioned before, I continued working at my part-time job. And that was the job that I was already working at when I was still in grad school. And although I didn't enjoy that job to the fullest, it did give me some sort of income that supported my everyday expenses, and it alleviated some of the financial burden off of my shoulders. And some of you might have part-time jobs already that you could continue working for that will help alleviate some of that financial burden. And it's completely okay to continue working at those jobs because it does give you some time to like job search at the pace that you want to go at. And if you don't already have another temporary option like a part-time job that you can return to, staffing agencies are really awesome alternatives to consider. So they are short-term employment that gives you experience, allows you to continue gaining experience, building your skills, learning, and networking. And most importantly, it also helps ease the stress of job searching. And you can go at your own pace to find the job that it will be a right fit for you. And sometimes our circumstances may not be the best that we want to be in, but try to make the best out of it. One thing I told myself after I graduated and I could not find a job and was rejected from the position that I applied for was that I was going to keep myself busy. I did not want to be a downer and feel sad about my situation. I wanted to continue learning and to use my skills, whether that was using my counseling skills with customers or to learn how to advertise products in social media. And I found that when I kept myself busy, When it came time for me to apply for jobs, sometimes employers may ask you, what did you do between this time? I was asked that. So then I was able to talk about like the things that I did to still learn and to still use my skills. And that is something that could be very helpful. And when you are offered a job, make sure that you have all the information you need in order to properly evaluate your offer. So before you begin, think about the things that are important to you. All the things we just talked about. What are the short and long-term goals that you have for your careers? What are the opportunities for advancement and location? The organization culture and compensation. These things could include the compensation, the lifestyle, and career opportunities that I mentioned before. And when you are planning to go into the negotiation process, make sure you are respectful and approaching the conversation strategically and positively. Make sure you're also talking to the person that made the offer to you, as they are your point of contact person, and ask if negotiation is possible before sharing all your research. If it is not possible, thank them and let them know that you will respond by the deadline. So make sure that you do your research and be reasonable and have data to support your request. And if there are no agreement, don't burn bridges with the company. Be gracious and explain that the opportunity is not a good fit for you. So, all right, we've covered a lot today. And if there's anything that I want you to remember today, it is to spend some time to reflect about your core values and what is most important in your life and career. Identify what your deal breakers are and assess your well-being and job search strategies. What can you handle in this moment? What makes sense for you in this moment? And check out short-term employment opportunities and continue to stay active in building your skills. If you get a job offer, be prepared and gracious in the negotiation process. And also remember that the UBCC is here to support you through your job search. And feel free to schedule an appointment with me, with any of our coaches or our peer career coaches for support.